Welcome to the Municipal Land Use Commission training offered by the Connecticut Institute for Resilience and Climate Adaptation, also known as CIRCA. We would like to share many topics within our Resilient Zoning Library that offers guidance on how land use commissions can create more climate resilient communities for the enhanced benefit of public safety and comfortability while creating an environmentally conscious future.
First, a note from CIRCA. CIRCA is a multidisciplinary center of excellence that brings together experts in the natural sciences, engineering, economics, political science, finance, and law to provide practical solutions to problems arising as a result of a changing climate. The Institute will help coastal and inland floodplain communities in Connecticut and throughout the Northeast better adapt to changes in climate and also make their human-built infrastructure more resilient while protecting valuable ecosystems and the services they offer to human society, such as food, clean air and water, and energy. The Institute will combine the world-class research capabilities of UConn and the progressive policies and practical regulatory experience of the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection to translate sound scientific research to actions that can ensure the resilience and sustainability of both the built and natural environments of the coast and watersheds of Connecticut. The mission of the Connecticut Institute for Resilience and Climate Adaptation is to increase the resilience and sustainability of communities vulnerable to the growing impacts of climate change on the natural, built, and human environments. Meet your CIRCA training guides. Hello, I am Kayla Vargas, a legal research assistant at CIRCA. I hold a master's degree in energy and environmental management, and it is my pleasure to walk you through this training today. Meet my colleague, Louanne Cooley. Louanne is a legal research fellow at CIRCA and is a graduate of UConn School of Law, where she earned a JD and LLM in energy and environmental law. She also serves on the Planning and Zoning Commission for the town of Mansfield. As you may know, town land use commissioners are now authorized under Connecticut General Statute, Section 8-2, to regulate certain uses of lands within the jurisdiction of their communities. To ensure commissioners are prepared to meet the legal obligations of land use regulation, in 2021, the state adopted Public Act 2129, now Connecticut General Statute, Section 8-4C. Requiring land use commissioners and members of zoning boards of appeal to complete at least 4 hours of training annually by 2024 and biannually thereafter, including 1 hour on affordable and fair housing policies. In guidance, the Connecticut Office of Policy and Management has recommended new commissioners complete training on basic meeting process and procedures, as well as land use skills that may involve the reading of site plans, surveys, maps, and the understanding of architectural conventions as part of the 3 hours of optional training. Beyond this, a wide range of information related to zoning, including impacts on environmental, historical, and agricultural resources, may be suitable topics for training sessions. The following modules on zoning for climate resilience, developed by CIRCA, can be used to fulfill optional land use commissioner training. This 3-module Land Use Commission Zoning for Climate Resilience training is self-paced. It is important to note this training does not constitute legal advice. Please consult with your town attorney before implementing any of the concepts we present here today. Funding for this project is provided by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development through the Community Development Block Grant National Disaster Recovery Program, as administered by the Connecticut Department of Housing.
Welcome to Module 1, Climate Change Impacts on Connecticut and Zoning Reform. Let's get started. In this module, you will learn how climate change increases risk and vulnerability to natural hazards like flooding, excessive heat, drought, sea level rise, and increased precipitation. Also, you will learn how zoning authority can be used locally to help mitigate the impacts of climate change and make communities more resilient.
Module 1 Table of Contents. Firstly, we will discuss causes of climate change and its impacts on Connecticut that include sea level rise, flooding, increased precipitation, increased heat, and drought. Number 2, vulnerability assessments and fact sheets by CIRCA. And last, how zoning can address climate change. Climate change impacts on Connecticut. In 2019, Yukon researchers, sponsored by CIRCA and Connecticut Deep, released 2 climate science assessment reports to better facilitate local planning for adaptation and resilience. The Connecticut Physical Climate Science Assessment Report and Sea Level Rise in Connecticut give regional scale analysis to allow for better local decision making. Key findings of the reports include sea level is expected to rise by up to 20 inches by 2050 and to continue increasing after that. Small changes in mean sea level have a big impact on the frequency of flooding. Areas that experience flooding every few years now should expect flooding multiple times a year by 2050. By 2050, average temperatures are expected to increase about 5 degrees Fahrenheit, with increases thereafter, dependent on emission choices now. Average precipitation is expected to increase about 8%, or 4 inches a year. Indices of hot weather, summer drought, and extreme precipitation are expected to increase. Sea level rise occurs as water levels increase due to glacial melt and thermal expansion, threatening our built environment, wildlife habitats, and human health. Connecticut sea level rise could increase 1.5 feet by 2050 and up to 3 feet by 2100. 61% of Connecticut's 3.6 million people live in coastal communities prone to flooding. Bridgeport, Connecticut has currently experienced 6 inches of sea level rise since 1965, which is higher than current global rates. Sea level rise means more frequent sunny day flooding, not tied to storm surge or precipitation in low-lying coastal areas. Flooding can occur from sea level rise, sudden intense storms, prolonged precipitation, or a combination. By 2050, key flood risk factors are expected to increase, including number of days with over 1 inch of precipitation, the number of heavy precipitation days, and maximum 1-day and 5-day precipitation amounts. In 2023, flooding resulted in more than $20 million in lost agricultural production in Connecticut and significant damage to road and rail infrastructure throughout the state. To put things in perspective, Connecticut experienced $8.1 billion in damage from Hurricane Sandy due to flooding intensified by sea level rise. Increased rain precipitation increases flooding and erosion from stormwater runoff, alters water chemistry threatening natural systems, and negatively affects water quality. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, Connecticut has seen a 38% increase in the amount of precipitation annually. Annual precipitation across the state is projected to increase, with the greatest increase projected for winter and spring seasons. Storms occur more frequently and more intense, causing damage to infrastructure. In essence, the number of heavy precipitation days are predicted to rise for the state of Connecticut. We quote NOAA and say the 10 warmest years in the 143-year record have all occurred since 2010, with the last 9 years ranking as the 9 warmest years on record. As for Connecticut, annual temperature has increased 3 degrees Fahrenheit since 1895 and is expected to increase 5 degrees Fahrenheit by 2050. Urban areas, such as Hartford, heat faster than rural areas, putting vulnerable populations at risk. Increased human health risks, such as respiratory difficulties and heat-related illnesses, pose a heightened threat. Excessive heat can lead to increased disease and pests, including ticks. Increased heat leads to negative effects on agricultural production, including lower crop yields. Impacts to infrastructure due to heat include damage to rail, bridge, and overhead wires. The picture you see here is CIRCA's Assistant Director of Research, Dr. Yaprak Onap, placing a data sensor in Norwalk, Connecticut. In collaboration with the Norwalk Department of Public Health, CIRCA assists in determining local heat vulnerability. Since the year 2000, Connecticut is experiencing historic drought conditions. In the last 20 years, Connecticut has experienced drought 10 to 20% of the time. In 2000, 2016, and 2020, the region experienced historic drought conditions not seen since the 1960s. In 2022, Eastern Connecticut reported significant issues operating within worsening drought conditions. As we experience more drought conditions, we may need to start thinking about new irrigation systems or drought-tolerant crop varieties as climate change persists. With drought comes heightened water costs and energy usage. CIRCA offers a Climate Change Vulnerability Index, or CCVI, as an index-based spatial model that identifies community vulnerability to climate change impacts such as flood, wind, and excessive heat. Vulnerability is calculated by adding exposure and sensitivity together minus adaptive capacity. Municipal staff, consultants, and the general public can access new vulnerability map viewers to assist with their community's resilient planning, to make educated decisions about future development and infrastructure investments, and to use as information for grant applications. Please visit the CCVI fact sheet on the CIRCA website for more information. The effects of climate change and its impacts that we have briefly discussed here, such as excessive heat, precipitation, drought, flooding, and sea level rise, is and will continue to negatively affect infrastructure, human health, and the well-being of our communities. This makes our present and future planning and zoning needs much different than our historical design and standards. Land use boards should be aware of the predicted climate impacts in their area and utilize this zoning for climate resilience training to better protect the people and infrastructure of Connecticut. Zoning is one tool communities can use to enhance local resilience to climate change impacts like flooding, sea level rise, and increased heat. Towns in Connecticut are authorized by the state government to regulate how land can be used through zoning under Connecticut General Statute 8-2 to 13A. Each town's legislative body can adopt the provisions in the statute detailing the powers of a zoning commission, the makeup of a commission, and the extent of the zoning commission's authority. Guided by planning and development staff and consistent with the town plan of conservation and development, zoning commissions can pass regulations on land use for particular areas with the intent to protect the health and safety of all. As the changing climate increases vulnerability and intensifies risk, zoning commissions should be aware of state, regional, and local hazard mitigation plans and localized vulnerability assessments when determining land uses. Policies like transportation-oriented development can help climate change mitigation by reducing transportation needs and thus fossil fuel use, while furthering housing and development goals. Adaptation policies can avoid sprawl and locate development away from climate-vulnerable areas like flood zones. By evaluating current and future climate vulnerability, development can be sited in appropriate, low-hazard areas and be designed and built to standards to withstand predicted climate risks. As climate change threatens people and the environment, municipalities can implement strategic land use planning and zoning regulations to improve local climate adaptation and resilience and direct development away from vulnerable areas. Regulations can be targeted to protect natural buffering features and green infrastructure, incentivize development density in specific areas, and specify resilient design to reduce impacts of storms, sea level rise, and increasing heat. Zoning regulation can also be used to meet overlapping municipal priorities,
like increasing affordable housing options while minimizing hazard risk. For example, reducing minimum lot size in certain zones can help concentrate density in less climate risky places, while increasing affordability for lower income property buyers. Affordable housing options can be integrated into projects that also meet resilient design criteria, helping municipalities avoid climate risk and meet obligations under Connecticut General Statute 8-30G's Affordable Housing Land Use Appeals Procedure. Examples of zoning policies that municipalities could modify and/or adopt to enhance local climate resilience will be discussed in Module 2 and 3 of this training.
This concludes Module 1 of CIRCA's Zoning for Climate Resilience training. Please be sure to head over to Module 2, where we will discuss specific zoning strategies to address climate vulnerabilities. Please visit the Climate Resilient Zoning Library on the CIRCA website to view our fact sheets containing additional information. We thank you for your participation today. Please contact us with any questions or concerns.